Hey, so I am Lauren K Newman, LKN. I've been performing as LKN for 20 years. I've been a musician my entire life. I first started playing music at the age of 5. That's when I began drumming. My father, who was also a musician, very much encouraged myself and my older brother James to listen to music and to explore music, to play music. So the first record he gave me was the Beach Boys' Greatest Hits, and believe it or not, that wound up being a very influential album to me, not only musically, but drumming. As a child, those beats are pretty easy to master. Just not saying anything bad about Dennis Wilson, because he is, I think, quite a wonderful drummer. But I mastered 409, and it was just taking off from there. I made my own drum kit out of pots, pans, chopsticks, and ice cream buckets and margarine buckets. And that's basically what I used to practice on. By the age of 7, I got my first snare drum and began learning rudiments. And at that same time, between the ages of 5 and 7, I got an acoustic guitar and started playing guitar, just naturally, self-taught. And then, of course, my mother went ahead and got me some guitar lessons, so I learned some cowboy chords from a very nice young woman who was my instructor for about a year. And I also took piano lessons briefly. But the truth about that is I didn't really learn how to read music. I just watched my teacher's fingers and then memorized what she did and then copied that. So I kind of faked it. So all this to say that I'm a self-taught musician. I did play snare drum in middle school in the drum line. I was in first chair. And then in high school, I did marching snare drum. So that was, if I had any formal training, it was that, as far as learning rudiments and learning to read drum music so I can read rhythms. I just really started exploring guitar and drums equally, with equal passion. Really hardcore. By the time I was 9, I was already playing the Rolling Stones, Eric Clapton, John Mayall and the Blues Breakers, Zeppelin. The first song I taught myself on guitar was actually Satisfaction by the Rolling Stones. And then I became obsessed and in love with Eddie Van Halen, and I learned how to play Eruption by the time I was 12. And I played my first concert at the age of 12 with my father on bass and my brother on drums. And we played Deep Purple, Metallica, and a homemade song, an original, LKN original. So by the time I was 14, I was already drumming in punk bands. And that's usually what I did, was drum in bands. I focused on that. Any band that would have me, I would play in and play passionately. I was very much influenced by the drumming of Ginger Baker, John Bonham, and Stuart Copeland. That was my trinity for the longest time. As I got older, in my late teens and early 20s, I became a really huge fan of Elvin Jones, the jazz drummer, and Todd Traynor of the band Shellac. And at that same time, also became completely in love and obsessed with what you would call post-rock, Midwest post-rock. Any band that was on Touch and Go Records, I basically bought the record without even knowing anything about the band. Just very much into the angular music, the textural guitars, the dynamics. And I do really love instrumental music as well. I started writing my own original compositions, like for real, beyond writing songs at the age of 9, when I first kept a notebook and wrote, but started really writing songs and writing them and playing them on all instruments and recording them and getting into engineering my own music on my 4-track at the age of 17. All of this happened when I got my first 4-track for high school graduation gift. And so that's when I began, and I never looked back. In truth, I used to write 2 to 5 songs a day. Sometimes they were just exercises and riffs, but point being, they were full-on compositions. I would start from the drums and build from there. I would track myself playing the drums, and then I'd add the bass, the guitar, the vocals, the piano. Sometimes I would make songs that were purely all vocal harmony, just stacked harmonies. Very much in love with Brian Wilson and his wonderful vocal stylings and technique. And basically from the age of 17 to 27, I literally wrote songs every day. Like I said, 2 to 5 songs every single day, just like an exercise, you know, and I got a lot of great material out of it. And of course, a lot of stuff that no one will ever hear, songs that I will never even hear again, and all on 4-track cassette. So basically in the mid-aughts, as we all know, digital recording became more accessible, and I finally got a digital rig and started working on songs that way. And at that same time, became more immersed in audio engineering proper, just taking out books from the library and learning the science behind it. And this helped me as a musician as well in composing songs. Started running sound for clubs, working with many bands, and then started freelancing in recording studios, working primarily with 2-inch tape, but also working with digital, you know, any format, Pro Tools, Digital Performer, Cubase. And so all of my original LKN albums, I have played all the instruments on them, wrote all the songs, played all the instruments, did all the vocal harmonies, and then live, as we all know, it's a trio, and it is very much a loud, abrasive, angular rock and roll experience that is also very passionate. Music is a gift, and it's a gift to be shared, and I am very happy to have been given that gift and the ability to share it. Nothing gives me more pleasure than performing for an audience and getting that interplay, that energy, that feedback from the audience, seeing a person smile, or any number of people coming up to me after a show and telling me how the show either changed their life in some way or inspired them to want to pick up an instrument. It is the greatest feeling in the world, connecting with humans that I wouldn't maybe have otherwise met or known, and all through this beautiful, fun thing called rock and roll. And I'm very happy to be affiliated with Frey Tree Records, and I look forward to making many more albums with them. And I hope to be putting out some new music very soon, and look for me coming to a town near you whenever my next album comes out. But look for me online. Check out my music. Email me. Let's get in touch. Let's talk music. I'm a passionate person. I'm an emotional person. I'm sensitive, and I care. And rock and roll for life. I talked a lot. Oh my God.